Thanks for coming by, brother.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We're talking about that donkey picture. That thing, those things are. He was just walking around. The thing with donkeys, you gotta be careful because they bite. Like if you are an asshole to them,
Yeah.
they will bite you like a pit bull. So I was just gentle to him, and he let me ride him for a little bit.
And like, are there donkeys walking around Ecuador all over the place?
Well, in farms, yeah. Like there's like horses or cows. They're just like they're so used to people that they just around. Like this is on the back of a restaurant. So we went to this restaurant it was in Quito, right?
Yeah.
And like this is the backyard. So it was just like chickens around. Like, I mean, so peaceful out there. And this guy right here was literally just asking me to ride him. So I was like, let's go for a ride. So that was funny.
How much time do you spend in Ecuador versus coming here?
I mean, now that I live here, I go there like once a year, sometimes once skipping a year. Like I don't go much out there.
Mm-hmm.
You travel a lot too.
Yeah.
Talking about traveling,
Travel quite a bit.
you're always on the go.
Yeah, it kind of varies. Like the last month I was on the road pretty much nonstop.
How was Chupo this last trip?
Incredible. It was incredible. Have you been?
Never.
Oh, man.
My dream is to be on the boat when it's big because I can just feel the sound of that wave. Like that thing is gnarly. Like I mean, I'm sure you see Chupo like when it's big, when it's like small, when it's okay. But like this last time, how big was?
It ranged because we went over for the contest, and like usually when there's a contest, you never really know how the waves are going to be. But it was funny because I went over there with Kelly, and he's always looking at the swell forecast more so than the start of the contest date. And so we had our tickets booked to leave on a Sunday, and then he's like, "Oh, the waves aren't going to be good the first couple of days," so we extended to spend more time at home, and then it wasn't going to be good again, so we extended again. And I'm like, man, I just want to get to Tahiti. So I went to Tahiti 2 days early because I thought,
You just want to be there.
I just want to be there. We were in California. It was like May gray, and there was no waves here. And I'm like, I'm going to go sit in Tahiti and wait for you there. And we ended up on the back end. As soon as the contest was over, we stayed an extra week because the waves were so good. And as soon as the contest finishes, everybody leaves, like gone. Like,
And probably that's when the waves were the best.
they were, and it was empty. And
That's crazy.
we ended up surfing quite a bit with like totally by ourselves, or maybe 1 or 2 other people. And this was like 2 days before there'd be 40 of the best surfers in the world out there.
Wow. So you have that for yourself pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
It was like it was big enough that you can like paddle into the wave, or it was like towing.
Well, that's what's so wild about Chopu. Chopu is such a unique place because no matter the size, there's a wave that will always come in that's twice the size of anyone else, of any other wave. So like the first day we got there, Kelly wasn't there yet, and I went out with Strider.
Yeah.
Wazalewski. We went out and it was like 2 to 3 feet, super fun and playful. And then I was taking underwater photos, and out of nowhere a set came, and the wave was probably double the size of anything that came in. It was like a proper 6-foot wave, so 12-foot face, landed probably from like where like the lip landed where you are, and I was right here.
Holy shit.
Because like the waves were kind of small, and I kind of had my guard down because the waves were so small that day.
What do you do when that happens?
So I went to swim underwater, and it was so small because we were so far inside on the reef that it was really shallow. So I was like, oh no, if I swim down, I'm closer to the reef. So I started to swim up, and as soon as the wave hit me, it like ripped the goggles off, pinned me on the reef, ripped the camera out of my hand. The camera's like a 15-pound water housing, things whipping around. I'm like pinned on the reef. Strider got blown way into into the lagoon. And it took him 45 minutes to paddle back around.
Holy shit.
And we're like, this is a small day. It's like a 2-foot day. And so what happens, like, as it gets bigger, so like about a week later, after the contest, we were surfing, and Kelly was paddling in, and there were tow teams out the back. And so Kelly was paddling into waves that were maybe, 15 feet on the face, really picture perfect waves. And then every hour and a half, there'd be a wave that was like 20 feet on the face, 25 feet on the face. And we'd all just be swimming. Or I was swimming as hard as I could to get out of the way. Kelly's paddling as hard as he could to get out of the way. And then there'd be like someone towing in on a wave on a day that
It's not even
a tow day.
That's crazy.
And so it's crazy. Like, I've never been anywhere else in the world that has such an extreme difference of swell. So even on the smallest days, there'll be 1 or 2 waves that are
They
way
can
bigger
hurt
than
you.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Can they just dog dive those, or they have to like let the board go?
It depends. So like Kelly and I, we were talking a lot about it. So there's 2 different theories. Like depending on where you are, if you're at the bottom of the wave and the lip lands in front of you, you want to stay high up to create as much space between the lip, your body, and the reef. But if you're inside of like where the tube is or in the lip, you want to like rip your leash off and try to swim out the back.
That's crazy.
So the board doesn't pull you over. But it's so weird because you look at the wave from the back of the wave and you can't tell how big it is, because there's such a distinct ledge, such a distinct difference
like
of
sunk
depth.
in too.
Right. And it's spooky. Like we were actually in Fiji the week before we went to that sounds so weird to say. We've been traveling a lot lately, but we went from Fiji home for 2 days, then to Tahiti.
Oh, you guys came back?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Kelly had to go to New York for 2 days for work. So he went to New York for 2 days and then came back, and then we went there.
That's crazy traveling.
And Fiji is unique because if you wipe out or you get stuck inside, it's such a big playing field. You'll get 5, 6, 7 waves on the head, and you'll end up like a kilometer down the reef. Whereas in Tahiti, it's 1 or 2 waves that are super violent, but then you're in the safety of the lagoon. So you don't get like multiple waves.
Right, you can go in the channel and you'll be fine.
Right. But in Fiji, it's such a huge playing field that you're like, okay, the first 3 still got me, and then you're coming up and there's foam everywhere. And
That's scary.
Fun.
I mean, when I was a kid, I used to watch the Chupo videos, and when that thing is big, and it can be like only 15-foot faces, but then the hole looks like 30 foot. And when I see surfers there, I'm like, holy shit. I feel like when surfers go there,
yeah,
that's like another like I made it kind of in surfing, because pipe is kind of like a training for that, but I think I will assume that that's the most scary one ever.
It's different because I think pound for pound, Chopu is a heavier wave, but with pipeline, you have the crowd, you have the proximity to shore. There's a lot of other variables that make it really challenging.
That's true too.
To deal with pipeline. Like at Chopu, when a wave comes your way, and all the boys and all the girls that are out there, there's a pretty good rotation in the lineup. There's a local crew that are incredible, and so if you wait your turn and they look at you and it's your turn to go, it's not quite like what you have to deal with at pipeline, where there's 70 other people that are all fighting for the same wave.
Right.
Chopu has a little bit more respectful in the lineup in that sense, and there's a little bit more.
There's more order.
There's more order and there's less people. But I would I've never stepped into the ring like what you do, but I'd imagine the first time is very scary.
Yeah.
And then the more you come into the ring, everything
You get more comfy.
You get more comfortable, and you become more familiar with what's going to happen, and you start seeing micro movements in your competitor, the way they move their hips, the way they move their feet, the way they twitch their eye before they pull their arm back to punch, or whatever kind of like poker tells.
Right. That makes sense.
That you can tell. And surfing is very similar. So like the more time that you spend in the water, you start to become familiar with where you are in the reef, how big the swell is, what board you're riding, what the wind's doing, what you had for breakfast. It's funny with like big wave training, a lot of people say, I can hold my breath for 5 minutes, but that's in a heated pool, listening to jazz music,
It's a different animal when you're real life.
Yeah, it's like have someone punch you in the stomach and hold your breath for 10 seconds, and it feels pretty bad.
When you're under the lights, the heat is different. You can do all this specific conditioning, but when you're not in the far line, that will be a sparring for us. Like the more you spar, the more competitive guys you have. It's almost like being on the water more often, getting more familiar with the power of the wave, with everything. And when I see those trips, I'm like, and you're probably not in the board, but you are like, you have like when you're swimming, you have anything to make you swim faster? Or
I wear swim fins, and then I have a water housing camera with a water housing in it, and it's attached to my wrist with a leash. And
I mean
that's it.
That's scary too, when because I'm pretty sure you get stuck in the wrong place sometimes.
A lot. I try not to. My friends and I, we always say we're like professional get out of the wayers. But yeah, every once in a while it happens. And that time I was telling you about on the first day in Tahiti, I was joking because I was underwater and I couldn't find my helmet before the trip. And when I was underwater, I was laying on the reef and I'd lost my camera. And I was like, man, it'd be a good time to be wearing my helmet right now.
Right. I mean, it's better to have it than done, right?
Mm-hmm.
What have been the most challenging place to be in the water, like in your whole career?
It's funny. It varies because there's each place has a different set of challenges, and each you kind of go through phases where you're like I've been through phases where I'm on the road a lot, traveling a ton, and I'm in a rhythm, and the waves are really big, but I was in really big waves the week before, and you feel really fit, and you're in this mindset where you kind of feel a little bit not invincible, but you're hyper aware of what's happening in the water. Other times I'll spend a couple of months at home and then I'll get the call to go. And then all of a sudden you're swimming in 20-foot waves and you're like, man, I was just riding a longboard at Cardiff this morning and now we're on a plane going to wherever. And you have to flip that mindset really quickly. And there's so much unpredictability with that. And so you kind of always have to be semi-trained or a higher level of training than just your basic health and well-being.
Right.
And then just staying mentally prepared for what could potentially happen. And I always joke because, when stuff does really go wrong, everyone's looking at the surfer. And I've been really fortunate to travel with some amazing surfers that are good friends of mine. And if they wipe out and I wipe out, all eyes are on them because they're the stars.
That's the part that people don't see. There's somebody else in the same wave under it doing laps too, and that's you.
Yeah, it's but you try to best prepare yourself and also try to it is an art and it's a calculated risk and it's funny for not a long time, but there was a period where I was training jiu-jitsu quite a bit and I loved it. And I love training with the higher belts. And a lot of my friends were scared to train with the higher belts because they're like, we're not going to tap them, whatever. I'm like, it's not about tapping at all. It's about learning.
Exactly.
And you learn. And the strongest guys and like the most technical guys are the guys you want to train with because they're gonna teach you. It's like you get two strong white belts, two strong blue belts.
It's a problem.
It's way worse than rolling a black belt.
And it's really dangerous too because they're 1,000% competitive. And they're like they're acting like they're on. I know I've been there. Like it's like they're on the finals. It's kill or be killed. Like there's not like a black will like flow with you and kind of like let you do something, then put you on something and don't crank it. I see before two white belts going at it because I've been one and you try to kill your partner. It is dangerous.
Yeah,
it's way more dangerous than roll with a high level guy that will give you the right amount of suffocation but won't hurt you.
Yeah, like teach you.
Yeah,
and you learn. And a white belt, you're rolling with them, all of a sudden they grab your ankle and you hear a pop and you're like, what is it?
What was that?
Yeah.
I know. Sometimes I go to regular classes and those are the most dangerous because everybody's like, you come. I'm like, I'm a black belt, but I know that purple belt, that blue belt, they want to almost make a name of him. I'm like, dude, I'm not here for the commerce. I'm here to learn too.
Yeah.
But I already passed all that. So like when I go to a regular class, I'm like, I select the guys I'm gonna go with because if not, it is dangerous.
Yeah.
Like people just wanna like take your head off. I'm like, guys, you don't have to do that. Don't do that. Calm down. They will go for a heel hook and crank, and I'm like, chill.
The school I used to train at, I used to train under Joel Tudor.
Oh, he's the man.
And so he's the one that got me into it like 10 years ago, maybe longer. And he was always like, just be able to have a conversation. If you can't have a conversation when you're training, like you're doing it wrong at your level. And I'm like, yeah, but it was awesome because there was this girl, Anna, that would train there. She was a black belt, but she used to be a ballet dancer. She's maybe 100 pounds.
But she's probably extremely flexible.
So flexible. And guys would come in with puff their chests and he would be like, go roll with her. And then she would tie them up so they wouldn't even know what to do. And it was so cool.
That's crazy to me when the guys try to kill the high level chick. I'm like, there's like 20 more guys. Why are you trying to kill the
Mhm.
sweetest girl in the mat? And I see that all the time. They want to like kill them. I'm like, chill. Like, it's jiu-jitsu. It's not even fighting. Calm down.
Yeah, but
People get crazy with that.
for some people, that's their fighting, and it's an art, you know.
It is an art. Yeah. It is, and it's something that is an everyday thing. Like, eventually you will get better. Like, 1 year of jiu-jitsu will get you to a high level. Like,
Mhm.
it will get you to a point that you will be safe on any altercation in the streets. It will get you safe to protect yourself. Like, but on the one-on-one, when it's like two beginners, it is dangerous. I see guys popping their knees on the first week, and I'm like, that only happened because you guys get to there on your own. That's not supposed to happen. Like, most of the people get the knee messed up when they throw the judo throw,
Yeah.
and the knee just bent over the opponent's leg. I'm like, and when I used to teach, I'm like, guys, do not throw head and arm. That's the most common thing, head and arm, and the knee just goes sideways. It's really dangerous.
Yeah, I did. I got my knee. I hurt my knee, my MCL, in training a couple of years ago, and it was. I think it was the other guys. I don't know. I mean, I have to be responsible for my actions,
Right.
but I had mount, and the guy bridged, and then I was on mount, and I was trying to do like a cross collar choke, and then he bridged, and he like popped me up super high, and then I landed just on the kneecap, and it popped, and I was like, oh, okay, that was like,
Right.
it was an aggressive one on his end, but also I could have let it go, so it could have gone.
You
either
can
way.
unmount too and go like knee on Bailey or
Right.
go to side control. That probably would avoid it. But sometimes in the heat of the moment,
Totally.
you're just holding so hard, and then you probably land harder on yourself too.
But it's funny. I feel like there's a lot of like from the outside, like jiu-jitsu and martial arts and MMA is very scary because they think it's just all people trying to kill each other. But it's as you learn it more, and I'm a total rookie. I'm a total beginner. But I was training for quite a while up until about COVID, and it kind of teaches you patience in life, very similar to surfing. Like with surfing, you get in these really high stress situations, and your immediate reaction is to panic, or in my case with a camera, to like swim and get out of the way as much as possible. But the more time you spend in the water and the more time you spend on the mats, you start picking up on these like subtle nuances that
Right.
you just see little pockets of air and little opportunities to put you in a safer situation.
That's true. I mean, the longer you do it, the more you're able to find that sweet spot to recover to. Because in grappling or surfing, there's gonna be a suffocation underwater. The new set is coming, and it's just like most of the accidents happen when you panic. If you just like kind of like find that relaxed time, because my dream was to be the best surfer in the world. Like that's my favorite sport. That's why like when I'm with a surfer, I'm just like stoked about it because I'm like I grew up watching you. I wanted to be like you, so it's like I can appreciate that so much. And when I'm in the water and it's big for me, and I get pounding a wave, I'm like I'm just trying to swim to get up, and then it's like if you calm down, it's gonna be way better than if you just panic the whole time. And that helps in my training, like on my conditioning, on my lungs, and that gives me like an extra layer of recovery when I'm getting tired, when I need some air, because underwater there's no air.
Mhm.
So you have to figure it out how to go hard up without trying too hard, because once you guys, it's done deal.
Do you ever? We've talked about this before, but I see you're always running up the hills. Like we talk about running a lot, and like I do quite a bit of running, and then I'll do like a stationary bike. And when I do the stationary bike, I'll put on a surf movie, and I'll pedal really hard, and then I'll try to hold my breath for an entire clip or an entire wave. And like when you're running hills, are you thinking more about like oxygen for surfing or oxygen for fighting?
I mean, in a way for both, but mainly for fighting, because that's what I'm gonna end doing for living. But when I'm running, even when I'm surfing, I try to paddle a little extra hard to get that conditioning in those muscles that I'm not used to training, or I feel like help me with punching a lot, because let's see, there's a big wave coming, and I'm just like, I have to go. I gotta go on 4x4. I need to like, because if that thing breaks before I pass, I'm gonna get slammed. So it's like I just go full blast. I just try my best, and then I go on, and I'm like, oh God, thank you. But that conditioning helps with punching, helps with choking a lot, because when I'm squeezing someone hard, I feel I have 5 more seconds of gas in my arms, and all come together in a way. Like that's what the best times I felt is when I'm in the water often, because once detach myself from what I'm doing, and I'm just happy, but also I'm paddling and stretching my shoulders non-stop, and that's a conditioning not everybody have, because not everybody surf. That's why like I try to stay consistent in the water, just because it's another type of cross train that gonna help me for the fight. And when I'm going uphill, midway through, you're fully gassed, you're fully done. But then I start thinking, if I stop and quit here, I'm gonna quit in the fight. So I would say, just keep going, just bite your teeth a little more, and eventually you will get there, but don't stop. And all that applied to the mindset of don't give up, and just expand a little extra layer of cardio. And the thing you say about holding your breath is one thing I've been trying now. I kind of like deploy the oxygen. Like sometimes, like if I'm warming up for sparring, I'm hitting the bag, and then I hold my breath and I hit for 30 seconds, because that gassing out myself without breathing is gonna promote more red blood. So I've been trying these little methods before training, so I can like, you heard when someone is fighting and they say like, oh, your second win is coming. You can do that before you get to the fight, kind of like to kill the first breath verse, because you're nervous. You're thinking, oh, I'm gonna get tired, but later on you're like, oh, I'm not tired. So I try to do that in the locker room or before sparring in the gym, to kind of like leave that the first win out, and then I have that one that is gonna go forever.
Interesting.
That's just a little better warming up. So one of my conditioning coaches explained me that like if you do like 30 seconds burst without breathing, your body's gonna go in panic mode, and you're gonna feel you're really tired, but you're gonna expand yourself way more than if you're just breathing the whole time. And that's been helping me lately. I've been doing that the last few months.
That's super interesting. Almost like having your first wind in the match be your second wind.
Exactly.
Kind of like when you're growing up, and if you don't surf over reefs, you're so scared of the reefs, and then you finally hit the reef and you're like, I'm okay. It's fine. Like, it doesn't feel good, but
you almost get used to it in a way. So it's like, it's almost like you gotta find that spot, like with everything. Like you can always push a little more, and sometimes you're like, you retreat because you don't know what happens if you push more. But if you do push more, you just expand the window by a few inches. But those few inches will pay off in the fight or in the water when you're partnering, because cardio is number one. You can have the best technique in the world. When you're tired, there's nothing you can do. And having that will help you.
How do you manage, like, for me, I'm in this weird situation where I grew up surfing, and I love surfing, and then I developed this like deep passion for photography, which kind of turned into a career, and it's enabled me to meet some of my heroes and become friends with them, and travel the world, and get to sit here and talk to guys like yourself, and we exchange texts all the time, but at the same time, it's also, for a long time, like every time I was going to the beach, in the back of my head, it felt like almost like going to work sometimes, because I'd always have a camera with me. There was always like, what could I do to make it better? Whereas when I started training jiu-jitsu, I had no professional affiliation with it. Joel brought me to the studio in Pacific Beach, to Rodrigo Madeira's place.
That's his own gym, certified?
No, this is before.
Oh, the one before that one.
No, Joel used to train in Pacific Beach at a place called Rodrigo Madeira.
Okay, I know the name.
And he brought me in there for the first time. It was a while ago, actually, maybe 15 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it was just this tiny gym, and all these guys. I remember the first time I went there, I just got like beat up pretty good by a bunch of like blue and brown. I had no idea what I was doing.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, and that gym was so it was very training focused to compete. And it's like, get in line and learn to compete, and I was like, I don't know anything, and I'm a pretty small guy, but you slowly learn and you develop how to understand what's happening, and it's like learning another language. And I loved that detachment from what I was doing professionally and personally, to have that place where you can just totally unwind, even though it's something physical. You're using all the lessons you learned in the ocean about staying calm and trying to be the healthiest that you could be, but also applying that to a new art. And like, do you find with surfing, it's a really nice detachment from all the training you're doing, because you're training jiu-jitsu, you're training judo, you're training boxing, kickboxing, everything. Like, is surfing for you that one thing where you don't have to think about work? You don't have to think about training. It's a passion, and you get to go enjoy the outdoors and look at dolphins and maybe travel or immerse yourself in a culture that is totally different than what you see in the gym.
That is 100%. That is the truth. Like, when I'm surfing, I'm the happiest because I'm not competing. Even if there's people watching, and in my head I want to perform like my idols, and I will have to get born again to do that. In my brain, I'm like, I'm so competitive, and I'm so like, I want to get better at this, but at the same time, that's not my sport. That's not what I make a living of. So it's like, it's my happy moment, and it's still hard to do it. It's still different, and I need to put all my focus in to get better. That it just detaches you for everything. That's what, like, every big athlete or big businessman or whatever, like even Joe Rogan, he will always says, do something outside your comfort zone. Like, I know how to fight. I can train every day. I can hit the meet for 20-minute rounds. Even if I'm tired, I'm going to be able to push. That's my job. I have to. But when I'm doing something different, like if I'm running hills or I'm doing long distance running, even if that is still training for a fight, it's not fighting. So I'm just like, I just put my mind and all my focus into this different area, because I hang out with crazy runners, like ultra marathon guys. Like, those guys do like 3 million miles, like another level of madness.
Yeah.
And when I go run with them, I'm like on their sport. I'm gonna follow them, even if it's a bad day for me, because it will be a bad day with guys like that. I'm just like happy to be able to do it with them. Mm-hmm. That's like when I've been in the water with Kelly and just watch him surf and doing, because one thing is watching on video and one thing is watching live, and you're just like, wow, like you can really surf like this. Like looks like you're in the simulation. Like, is this real? Like, you're just throwing the craziest errors, the crazy turns, and when you're on that outside your comfort zone, you just like, it's almost like renew you and make you like come back to your own thing with a different enthusiastic. Like, that's why like I pick at times, like I would do a little bit of yoga. I would even go to Pilates with my wife and just do something that I'm not good at, and give me that kind of like enthusiasm to like come back to my own thing and be like, this is not that hard. Or jumping on the ice bath. Yeah. It never gets easier. It never gets better. You just have to like convince yourself like it's okay to suffer. Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And when you do hard things outside your job, it just makes your job better, just because you're putting yourself in situations that they're not easy for you. And that's what has been helping me my whole career to like overcome obstacles or like bad days, or like when things don't go way on a fight, I'm like, here we go again. Let's just do it again. And I'm always picking that one subject outside what I do to like get good at. Like lately I've been shooting my bow and arrow in my patio, and I mean the focus that you need to, I mean, first of all, you miss, the arrow's gonna break because it's a metal arrow. You hit the wall, that's a wrap. And I have like a 20 inches kind of like box that the arrow goes through, and if you miss that thing, you break an arrow, and I only have 6. So just when I get in the party and I'm shooting that, I'm like, I'm just learning something different. And then I go to the gym after that. I go work hard. I'm not thinking like, oh, I'm a little tired. Sometimes when you're waiting for the next practice, you're like, oh fuck, I don't feel good. But if you're doing something outside your box and you put your focus, oh, it's time to train, you go and almost like pretty much kill it. But it's taking your mind away from your obligation sometimes that will make you perform better.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the way I got into running is growing up. I hated it, and I don't like to use that word very much at all. I despised running. I was short, little legs, just couldn't find the right shoes. It was just always cramping. It felt terrible because it hurts. And
Right.
maybe 5 years ago, I was looking for things to do, and I'm like, okay, what is the thing I like the least amount in my life? And I'm like, running. I made a promise to myself to run twice a week. And there were times it'd be like 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday night, and I'd only run once that week. And I'd get my shoes and I'd go run in the dark for 30 minutes just because I'd made a promise to myself. And from that, I don't know if dedication's a word, but just from that perseverance of making a promise to myself, because it's physical stuff for a lot of times. It can be easy.
Right.
You do enough push-ups, you get strong. You hit a bag enough, you get strong and fast. But the mental side of it
It's a different animal.
just like the ice bath. Like the ice bath, it doesn't get easier, but you know that you can survive it because you've done it before. But through that kind of dedication of trying to hold myself accountable, I developed like a pretty deep passion for running. And I have friends that are runners, and they're like, how do you not wear heart rate and do this? I'm like, I don't know. I put on my shoes and I just go. And sometimes you feel good and you run 2 miles, and sometimes you feel good and you run, I don't know, 15 miles, whatever it is. But just it kind of that kind of unknown, and because you don't have to do it, makes it more fun.
Right.
And I've been really fortunate to spend a lot of time with Kelly and see the way that he operates his life and he spends his days. And as far as surfing goes, he's like a red belt. He's like
coral.
He's coral. Yeah, he's the master. And a lot of people will go, well, why do you think he's so good? What makes him so good? And
Discipline.
I'm like, he loves surfing. He loves surfing more than anyone I know. We've seen him win the Pipeline Masters and finish all the press and then go back out and go surfing. We're like, bro, you just surf Pipeline with one other guy all day in heats, and then you want to go out and surf with 50 people because the waves are good? He's like, well, yeah, it's fun, and I just love it. And I'm like, man, that's so cool.
And that's another level of discipline. Like a few years ago, I would hit him up about like health or like recovery, and like he's just an encyclopedia about well-being, and that guy put his whole life into that. Like a lot of people get to a certain level and they kind of like fuck around a little bit, or kind of like, oh, I'm already good. He have like a white belt mentality in terms of like how I can get better, how I can master this trick, how I can do this, and you can only do that through discipline. And what you say about he won pipe, and then he went back into the water when everybody was waiting to surf. Now they're there. He went, I'm gonna get a few more reps, and that really detaches yourself from the regular people, or even from those pros that are not putting that extra mile. And that's the way I see it with fighting. I'm like, sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're like, oh, maybe I can take off, but you can always do a little bit that will detach you. And I come without a background of like, I wasn't like this black belt winning worlds or this high school wrestler. I started at 17, and I was passionate about it. I want to be in the UFC one day. And how I did that, doing 4 or 5 classes a day. Like I would go to the kickboxing, to the boxing, to the wrestling, and I was like, I don't know what to do, but I was just so enthusiastic about it. Like I want to get better at this. That, I mean, if you're gonna copy things in life, copy those things. I mean, just try to figure it out how to open that window, how to like get better at that. And guys like that pretty much tell you, I mean, you're in a fortunate place to be like capturing the best moments behind the scene. Like how that play off in your career, that probably like elevate your game to another level, like by follow a guy like that.
Yeah, I owe a huge amount of gratitude and thanks to Kelly. It's funny. So we just made a book. I don't know if I told you about. Oh yeah, you're in it. I wish I had one to show you, but we went to print like 3 weeks ago. So we're getting the first copy in a couple of weeks. I can't wait to see it.
I'm excited too.
But it's kind of weird because growing up, I of course knew who Kelly was and would see him around a little bit, and we'd met a couple times in passing with different friends, and in 2010, I got hired by Quicksilver, as my friend was the marketing manager, and he called me up and he was like, hey, do you want to come work with Quicksilver? And I'm like, that'd be a dream. That'd be awesome. And thinking, who knows where that was going to take me. And the very first shoot I ever did was with Kelly. And the very first day that we ever shot photos was, we ended up shooting the photo that was used to celebrate his 10th world title, where he has like it's black and white photo and his hands are behind his back. And I was so nervous driving to the beach that morning. We woke up early and we were driving in the dark, and I had him pull the car over so I could throw up, get sick. And he's like, you okay? I'm like, I got food poisoning. But I was so nervous. I was just like very anxious and I was like, man, I knew the waves were going to be good and I don't want to mess it up. And this is a great opportunity. And we just kind of got along really well. We both had a very shared passion for waves and studying swell maps. And we kind of got along. We just got along well. And I got to see into his world. He opened up his door and let me in. And a lot of being a photographer is you have to be a human first. You have to understand the greater scope of the scene and not necessarily take photos of everything, because there's moments that are personal. There's moments that really just don't need to be documented. And we always led with the best waves first. Let's get the best waves. And also, like, Kelly at this time, he's on his way to win his 10th world title. He'd already worked with all these amazing photographers. He'd worked with amazing filmers. But after that first trip, he kind of just took me under his arm and we started traveling it's been 15 years. Wow. Since that first little trip. And we've gone all over the world and had some pretty incredible experiences. But even more so is I'm always learning from him. He's an artist in his own right. He's always shooting photos. He's always writing things down. He's always researching health and wellness. And I can see the way that he kind of hyper focuses before an event, and the way that he prepares for a swell, and the way that he prepares for a trip, or the way that he prepares for a business opportunity. I'm quietly in the back just observing, usually not even taking photos, but just kind of taking that all in, going, okay, there's a lot to be learned here. You got to be prepared. You got to be open to new suggestions, new ideas, but also you have to be willing to like put yourself on the line when the set of the day comes, or when these big decisions need to be made. And like when we were in Tahiti last week, it was funny because there was a lot of other photographers, and when we would paddle out, they would all be out. Some of them would already be out shooting, and every wave would come in and they would shoot every single wave. And I would just sit patiently in the channel, waiting. And then when I'd see the way that I always like, it's funny, Kelly was like, he's like, okay, what's your lineup for Chopu? And I'm like, what's yours? And he was explaining to me how he has these 3 points that he triangulates, so he knows exactly where he likes to sit on the reef. And I was there the year before and I dove the entire reef and have a pretty good understanding of the reef at Chopu. And he's like, so what's your lineup? And I'm like, my lineup's you. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I look at you. I look at what size board you're riding. I look at the size of the swell. I look at the lens that I'm using. And I try to figure out what distance you and I need to be to create the best image and capture the peak moment without getting in the way. And so if you're on a bigger board, that means the waves are bigger, which means you're going to be going faster, which means you're going to be further up the reef. So I need to sit a little bit further out. So the wave that you're looking for is going to break a little bit further out on the reef than where everyone else is sitting.
That's crazy.
If you're on a small board on a really big day, you're looking for the insiders, which is going to put me in a much worse situation, but I at least know where your head's at. And so when waves would come, there were a lot of photographers, they would photograph, and there were all these fantastic world-class surfers that were out in the lineup, and I wasn't shooting them because I knew that my guy was looking for a certain wave and I was looking for a certain shot of my guy, of right. Kelly, because that's why we were all there. And so a lot of the times when he would take off on a wave, I was the only photographer around because I wasn't wasting my energy trying on everything else going on. But then when he would paddle for a wave, and you can always tell because when you swim through a wave and you look, I'm just looking at him, and the way that he reacts to the next line out the back, whether he turns his head way to the right, swells west. If he looks left, it's south. If he like moves forward, then that means we're stuck inside. And so I'm just looking at that reaction. And that way I know, like, when he's taking off on a wave, I'm 100% committed like he is. And if that means me going over the falls or me getting the next one stuck inside, that's the risk you have to take. But I'm trying to always mitigate that risk by not being open to every single wave. Otherwise, you're gonna get tired.
Right.
It'd be like being in a jiu-jitsu match or being in a boxing match, and you start to read your opponent. And once you kind of learn that language, you end up saving a lot of energy, I would imagine, because you can call their bluff on some things.
You're not just throwing for the throw.
Right. So you try to be tactical. And Shane Dorian, he was the one that brought it up to me. He's like, man, what you do is kind of like bow hunting. He's like, I'll walk around all day and I'll maybe pull my bow once or twice, but hopefully only once, because that means
it's a clean shot.
It's a clean shot, and we're done.
That makes sense.
And that's always kind of stuck with me, is I've always tried to mitigate risk as much as possible. But then when you do commit, you're all in.
All of the falls.
And you hope you don't go over the falls, because it puts you in a really bad situation when that happens. But you have to be ready for that. And I have friends at home that train and they do ultra endurance like your running friends, and we run a lot together, and it's never fun because you're running as fast as you can and they're having a full conversation and you're like, bro, I can't talk.
I've been there.
You're just like, come on, man.
I was running hills with Cameron Haynes, and I was just like, I can tell they were just cruising, and we're going it wasn't even a trail. We're going like up in a mountain, just climbing over fallen trees, and I was like, I mean, I have that pushing me, but I was dying the whole time. I was like, how in the fuck, when this finish? And I never ask. That's one thing about me. I will never ask when we done or how much longer. I will just go. If I faint or I die, I die. But there was a point like midway in the mountain, I was like, I keep looking up, and we're getting closer to the clouds, but I don't see the top. And I was just like going. And then there was a point that I was like, they were asking me, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good, man. I'm happy. But in the inside, I was just like, dude, I want to go home. But that push is like what separates you from the pack. And I was just like, this is crazy. And those guys, like one of the guys running with us was like, yeah, I'm just cruising with you guys. And when we're done, I'm going to do 13 more. And we did 15 total. And I was just like, are you doing 13 more? So we got back to the house after we climbed these 2 different mountains. And then we did sauna, ice bath. And then this guy was like, okay, guys, see you guys later. I'm going to run. And I was like, okay, dude. And then that guy took the next day off and did 30 miles on Sunday. And I was just like, there's levels for this thing. I mean, there's just different humans. And I can see that with everything else. I'm like, holy shit, you can really do this. It's crazy to me. For you, what type of condition you do? Because you put yourself in places that you will get suffocated, that you will get tired. And I see you do mountain bike, or at least you did for a while. What else you do in terms of like keeping your heart rate at a high level?
I do quite a bit of mountain biking. I have a gravel bike that I'll ride the trails around my house, and then I'll also ride it on the road. So I'll do like road biking, but I'll do it on a mountain bike or a gravel bike, and then running, body surfing. This morning I woke up and I body surfed for an hour, and I'll always try to ride the waves as far in as I can, and then sprint paddles as fast as I can out. I think for what I do, the best way to stay conditioned is to get in shape by doing. Like a lot of cyclists say that they race into fitness. So I think you can go to the gym and lift as many weights as you want and run on the treadmill as much, but spending time in the water for what I need to do is probably the most important. And it's a challenge. Like in the last year since we've been working on this book, and I've been doing other like commercial work, which kind of takes me away from time in the water, I've found it harder and harder to get that really quality time in the water. And so I try to eat healthy. That's really important. Just eat eat really healthy. My wife's an amazing cook, Jenna, so she cooks a lot, and we like to cook together, but when we cook together, I do the dishes and try not to get in her way too much. But yeah, I try to stay active, and I try not to think of anything as training. I just try to think of, I read that book, Born to Run. I don't know if you've read that book.
I know the name, but I haven't read it.
It's a really good read. It was a quick one. But the thing that I enjoyed about it is the best runners, and one of my favorite runners is this woman, Courtney DeWalt. Are you familiar with her? She's incredible. Like she's so unique to the running world. Excuse me. She runs in long shorts. She eats nachos, drinks beer. She's like the anti-runner, yet anything in an ultra or longer, she's setting course records for both the men and the women.
I know. When I hear interviews of her, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm eating candy and drinking beer," I'm like, how you put these two together?
And then she brushes her teeth at every aid station. She's like, "Yeah, I like to have nice teeth, and I eat sugar, and to keep me going." I'm just like, "You're my favorite." Like I was telling Kelly about her the other day, but I guess a lot of it is with photography, the technical side is relatively easy, all things considered, but the meteorological side, which is knowing where to go and when, and then how to best communicate with your subject as to where we're going to go, and what you kind of have to dive into the mind of your subject. And I've always really strived to be like a good portrait photographer, because I like meeting new people, but I'm really shy. And so the more I learn about people, the more I have something to talk to them about and can kind of understand where they're coming from, because photography can be so uncomfortable in a lot of ways. Like I don't love to have my photo taken, and a lot of people don't necessarily love to have their photo taken. But if you can set your subject at ease, and if you're at ease, everything kind of flows a little bit smoother. So I would say body surfing, running. It's funny when you were talking about your running friends. I have a group of friends that I ride bikes with at home, and they're all very good cyclists, nationally ranked, some of them on world tour teams. And there's a couple teams, but I love to go ride bikes with them. And I'm the slowest one. I'm on a gravel bike when they're on road bikes. Like hands down, I'm the worst one of the entire group.
But they're like real ones too, so it's not.
But
like
they're
the
real
worst.
ones. Yeah. But they must like me. And like we're all in this group chat, and I'm always like the first one to fire everyone up and get them going, because there's all these hills by my house that are super steep, and they're like, "These things are pointless." I'm like, "No, it's really funny to me to see which one of you guys give up first." Right. Because I'm like kind of headstrong just from being in bad situations in the ocean, and like when stuff gets bad, like you kind of have to start laughing because it keeps your heart rate low. Right. And these guys that are so trained and they're so focused on their training and their goals, and they're like, "Why are we going to do that? That destroys your legs for 2 days." And you're like, the fact that you won't do that is what's funny to me. Right. Because like, one, it's not even race season. So like, it's not like you're tapering for a race or for a big thing. Like, let's just go see where your heart's at right now.
Then and you can try to see how far can you get.
Yeah. And some of the hills are so steep. I'm out. They always make it up. I always end up walking. But there's this one hill by my house that I've tried to go up. We have Strava, and there's all these different segments, and one of them is called Once Is Enough. It's like a mile long. It's average like 20%.
Holy shit.
And so by the time you get like 3/4 of the way up, there's this little knuckle that's like 35%. It's like very, very steep. And I can't make it up, and I've tried it. I've run it a bunch, which is fine, but I always end up pushing my bike over this one knuckle, and that's like my goal, to like make it up this one dirt climb. And they always laughed, like, "Why do you care so much?" I'm like, I think it's funny that every time I try to make it, I tip over. But you're not going to get hurt tipping over at 2 miles an hour.
Right.
And the fact that it's upsets you guys so much that
you want to go more.
I want to go more.
You do that one with the clip shoes or with regular shoes?
The clips.
That was the thing I was getting super fucked up. I used to, like, there was points, like, I used to go to Laguna with a friend that he's like a pro too, and that guy would sprint on any hill. Like, I was like, "Dude, are you fucking real?" Like, he wouldn't slow down. He was like full blast up, and it would take something that it would take him 10 minutes. It would take me like 20.
Yeah.
And every time I was trying to unclick, I was just like, okay, too late, and just like slow-mo falling to the ground. And I got caught in my elbow, caught in my arm, and I never saw my back. I still have it, but I'm just like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this because I'm getting too many cuts. And
Yeah.
and then I get a road bike, but the road bikes didn't make it for me. I did like 20 miles one day, and I was like, I don't even break a sweat doing this.
Yeah.
So mountain bike, that's the serious one, because when you go up, you just feel like you're not gonna make it. Because
Yeah.
I can run up, I can run hard, but on the bike it's a different animal.
And it's funny. I ride bikes a lot with a friend of mine at home he was a pro snowboarder, and he was great. Did the Open and the Olympics and all that stuff. And he has the same mindset as I do. So when we go ride together, we both come back bloody. Usually I do, and all dirty. And he's like got his like white shoes on, and he's just like, I love this stuff.
I mean, tapping in with that giving up and keep going, it will make your life so much easier. And most people don't understand that. They think it's not good, but that's the healthiest way to keep your mind healthy. Like going to the biggest discomfort, to the hardest thing that you're not a professional, but just give it a try. It will make you so much tougher than anything you do. So that's what I'm like saying. Like if you're in a trap, in a bad set or whatever, you're just like, I've been here so many times that you're like, I'm gonna figure out how to make it out. And if you don't have that mindset, that's when something bad can happen.
Yeah, and it's kind of like they say with people. I mean, I couldn't imagine. You probably look at some of the places where I've swam with a camera and go, oh, I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, right.
But then I look at a cage and I start sweating.
You don't want to be there either.
No, mats are okay. But a cage is a whole nother level. And it's just, I think it's, for me, it's the unknown, but it's also, I have so much respect for that space that, and I haven't put the time in to study it the way that I could. It's so funny. Like people watch fights and they go, we go to our friend's house to watch the fights, and everyone's like screaming at the TV like they know what to do. I'm like, really? You never even been to a boxing class? Like you don't know what you're talking about. Like put your beer down and like go to a class and maybe you can like have a conversation.
Right. It's true.
But there's a whole other element. Like how do you manage the pressure of not only you're fighting an opponent whom I assume you typically respect the trick, because you know whatever you're doing, they're doing.
100%.
But at the same time, you have how many people looking at you, one, wanting a good show, but two, like thinking they know what to do, and they're all yelling at you like,
I mean,
switch your hips. And you're like, bro, if I could, I would, but this guy's heavy. And
or sometimes someone is in the ground and you can hear the people in the crowd say, come on, get the fuck up. And you're like, dude, trust me, I do not want to be eating elbows in this next to the cage. So it's like, I feel my best attribute is like I'm really deaf ears to those comments. I'm kind of like, I'm fully focused. I'm like hyper focused on exactly what my coach told me. And he makes the best job in, he told me like, hey, I need you to get out of there. But it's getting tricky to get out of there. He won't start screaming at me like, come on, I'm telling you this. He will say something like, I know it's hard and I know it's getting complicated, but try to push more, kick the cage or go for an underhook. Like, it's how you send the message too, because sometimes when I do commentary, I'm in the other side of the cage and some of these coaches are like, come on, dude, what the fuck? I'm telling you to fucking get up. And that's just increasing the stress on your fighter. And then that's a way too poor way to tell someone something. So most of the time is how the message is delivered that the athlete will take it better. But sometimes you're just losing. Sometimes you just trapped. And someone in your corner gotta do the best they can to tell you how to regain control instead of just start screaming at you. Because most coaches that you see on TV, they go like, they're just like, it's like a tough man competition. Like they kind of like hype you up and like, see that guy over there, fuck that guy. I mean, I was like, dude, I know, I hate him too. I want to kill him, but I can't right now. Can you tell me, move more to the left or feint or fake the knee, throw the punch? There's always a way to deliver it in a better way, because think about it. You're in the center of an arena with 20,000 people drinking beer and going crazy. there's enough pressure already that if your main coach is just screaming, it's not gonna help. I seen guys that they're losing a fight, and you can tell how the coach can put more fear in the head than actually give them confidence. And I would say thank God I have the right guy, because I've been losing rounds, and sometimes I can tell he's getting like upset about because we're not clicking, but he still find a way to deliver that message in a most proper way that I can be like, okay, it's not too hard to do that. So then you can go and apply and be like, oh, I am knocking the guy out. But learning how to talk to somebody is probably the most important part in there. And if you're listening to the crowd, you're already not focused. So that's already a lose situation for you, because you cannot be hearing at the crowd. Like, sometimes someone can insult you or say something negative. I'm like, that guy's in the other side of the cage. Don't focus on that. I mean, I got great ears. Like, I just block the whole environment. I'm not looking at nobody. I'm just like, there's one guy in front of me, and that guy needs to get hurt. So I'm gonna focus on that strictly, and that's the best way to see it. I mean, I'm in surfing, people talk shit too. Like, people play games, or someone part a little faster to you to the lineup, or you have an advantage or whatever. You have to like figure out how to play those games. Like, I do a lot of those things. Like, when guys want to shake gloves in between rounds, I'm like, fuck you, dude. This is not taekwondo, bro. Fuck off. Or like, if someone walks to my corner and they're kind of lost, I'm like, hey, get the fuck out of my corner. Those things will trigger someone and be like, oh shit, this guy is not trying to, because sometimes they're trying to be friendly to kind of like bring your energy down, or maybe, or they're just genuinely nice people. My immediate reaction is just like, fuck you, I'm not your friend. And they're kind of like, okay, wow. But it's just mind games that you gotta play in there.
Do you keep in touch with any of the people that you fought with previously?
No, man. It's almost like when the fight's over, maybe a handshake, but besides that, it's like, if you're still in my division, I'm not gonna be any gentle to you. It's just, I mean, it's not a sport. Fighting is way too gnarly to be nice. And I can be nice outside, I can be normal outside, but when it comes down to your opponent, you just can't be nice. I mean, you have to let them know. I mean, it's my career or yours in the line. And in other sports, you have the chance to compete more often. You have a bigger season. You can lose in the first one in a city and still making your points later. Mm-hmm. In fighting, you lose one fight and it's almost like that one fight will determine you until the next one. And fighting is way too gnarly. It's not a friendly sport, and that's why like a lot of people like get in the way, like, oh, but respect and martial arts, and it's like, yes, I get that part, but I can play that in the jiu-jitsu gym. I can be nice and be proper, but on the cage, not gonna happen. It's just different. It's a different game.
Yeah, it's almost like the cage is a whole other world outside of like, it's all the different, it's mixed martial arts.
It's everything.
It's everything into this one isolated area that where, yeah, you can't be nice.
I mean, you can. I mean, I see guys sometimes they're trying to shake hands or they're touching gloves after every combination. It's like, you're going to get hurt if you keep playing the nice guy, because that other guy, he will find a way to hurt you. And when he hurt you, he's going to celebrate. So it's like, you're going to be nice to that guy? Might as well just get in there and get the job done. I'm nice to my friends, I'm nice to my family, but not to you or your team. So it's just better to play like that.
Where's your favorite place to surf? Or you said you wanted to surf or go watch Chopu? Is there anywhere that you want to surf and get a wave at?
I mean, there's a lot of, Australia looks like extremely fun place to surf, and there's a lot of big waves out there that they don't break too hard. They're kind of like huge walls, and you can like do a lot of turns. I would love to go to places like that when it's like, it's big, yeah, but it's not breaking like super heavy. Like, I'm used to surfing in Newport, and when it's good, you're pretty much dropping in a barrel and it's a heavy wave. So it's been hard to me to like get really, really good at it besides the small days. But I would love to have like a like a San Clemente point. Like it's just nice long waves. It's just the crowd is crazy.
Yeah.
And I always tell people my best day ever on Trestles was when I was with Kelly.
Uh-huh.
So he let me go in like 15 waves, and I was surfing the best I can surf, and I was like, oh, this is the best day of my life. And then the next week I came back like super excited, and I was like, in 4 hours I didn't catch one wave. And I was like, oh, okay, so I know how this works. So I stay local, I go to HB, but I mean, my dream is to go one day to like Indonesia and surf those crazy lefts and stuff like that. Mexico, Salina Cruz have some dope rides, and in Ecuador I learned how to surf only backside in this one place that I have 12 right points. So at some point I don't even knew how to surf frontside.
Really?
Because I only surf in this place that I probably catch one left in like 3-4 months period, and I used to get so used to surf right all day. And I mean, there's so many places. I just have the chance to travel. I'm always training for the next fight. Always training, but eventually one day, my dream is to be in a boat with all pro surfers and just go to the best places.
We got to make that happen. We got to do that. I think you would. Indonesia is incredible. I think you would really like Peru.
I've been there once.
Oh, you have?
But it was like small. It was really small. I went to Lobitos, and even if it was that small, it's still like a 30-second phase.
Yeah.
Peru have amazing points, and there is really close to Ecuador. It's only like a 6-8 hour drive.
Oh, that's it.
And you get to like like just to the past the line that is like Lobitos, and you got something called El Hueco. That's a steep wave.
We got really good. We went there in 2009 and got really, really good waves. We made a surf film when we were down there.
No, Peru gets really good.
And then Chile is super cool too.
But that's a heavy wave.
But I think you would like it because if you don't mind wearing a wetsuit, it's like it gets really tall, but it's like Peru, but a little bit bigger and cold.
Yeah, it's really cool. I have a lot of friends from Ecuador that surf there, and it's Arica, right?
No, further to the south. Once you go south of Santiago, it's all left points.
I don't think I'm familiar with. I mean, I'm sure I saw photos from my friends before, but water is cold out there.
It's cold.
But if it's good, it can be freezing.
It'll be like cross training because you'll be in a 4-3, just paddling against the current the whole time. You'll come back so cut.
That's true. I mean, that's one of my dreams, getting a nice surf that I can just go nonstop.
Well, I think the place that we first met, Surf Ranch, that was like paradise.
That place is the best place. I just went there like 2 weeks ago.
Did you?
Yeah, it was Tony Hawk's birthday celebration.
Oh, fun.
That was a fun day. What Tony throw crazy airs.
I know. I've been there with him. He rips.
Yeah, like he take his time. He's kind of like floating, and then all of a sudden he kind of ollie, but that's an air to me. I was like, holy shit, he just throw an air right now.
And talk about like perseverance, coming off his broken femur to be able to skate the way that he does now.
I saw him, and then few days later, I did his podcast, and he was skating right before I got there. I was like, holy shit. Like, watching him live was like, oh, wow. This is the way he throw himself in there. Like, that ramp is gnarly. And he's going like 8 foot outside. I'm like, watching him live. I mean, I think I'm kind of set for life. I watched Kelly surf live, and I saw Tony skate live, and I'm like, there's just levels for this shit. I mean, I was just watching him. I was like, wow. Like, that was crazy. Watching him live was crazy.
I got to watch him at his half pipe once. We were at the Surf Ranch together like the week before. This was a couple of years ago. He's like, come by the ramp, come check it out. And like, there's one thing I know is skating. Skating's pretty, like, skaters are dedicated to skating. And he's like, hey, come by if you want to shoot photos. Like, just come check it out. I'm like, okay, rad. And I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, when else am I going to get this opportunity? I've photographed skating maybe twice, but I got an open invite from Tony, and I was like, I'm going to take him up on it. So I sent him a text. He's like, come by tomorrow. I'm like, okay, cool. And I had this idea for a photo of of shooting a photo of Kelly. And that's one thing that we always try to do is, rather than just like, there's a lot of photographers that are always just trying to document whatever happens. And I think that's important to kind of be a fly on the wall, but I also like to build a relationship and try to make a photo together, not necessarily like fabricate it, like something that's not real. But if Kelly's going to surf, or whomever I'm shooting, if it's surfing, they're going to do a big turn, let's at least try to go somewhere where there's a nice backdrop, or go where the light's nice, or go shoot it from an angle that highlights it in the best way possible. And with Tony, because I knew we were at the ramp and it was indoors, I was like, man, I'm just going to bring my lights just in case. And if it works out and he says we can shoot, I'm just going to throw this idea out here and see what he says. And so we were hanging out a little bit, and he's like, I'm going to skate. And he's like, do you want to shoot a thing? I'm like, yeah, actually, I kind of have this idea. And I'm just thinking, oh no, like he's either going to just like shut it down, because most people are like, do a kickflip or like do a 900. And I knew not to do that, because I respect him too much, but I wanted to make an image that was beautiful and something that he was proud of. And I'm like, hey, like, I got an idea. Can you do a hand plant? And he's like, that's all you want me to do? I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, I'm going to have, I was there with Jenna, my wife, and I'm like, I'm going to have Jenna hold the light behind, and I want to shoot you as a silhouette, so it's super dark.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, well, you're not going to like see my face? I'm like, no, it's going to be cool. You're just going to be like a shape. And some of the images that I've shot over the last however many years, you can't see the subject. And a lot of people always, when they don't get a lot of opportunity to photograph someone, they want to make sure they see their face, because they want to highlight. They go, yeah, this is me and whomever is in the photo. And I'm like, yeah, but their face is just a part of it. But the way that if it's a fighter, the way they punch, if it's a skater, the way that they skate. Oh yeah, wow. That's the one. And I just wanted to give the feeling of what it's like to show Tony like skating in his park. So Jenna was behind him holding a light, and I was trying to communicate in this language of skateboarding that I don't know very well.
Right.
And we shot it and ended up showing it to him, and he goes, man, I've skated this ramp a lot, and I've
there's no pictures like that.
Nothing looks like this. And I was proud of this image, because we came to him with a concept, and it wasn't something that was so dangerous or so like over the top that he was going to hurt himself, because that's one thing. Wow, this is another version of it. So one was really wide to kind of establish the scene, and this is a tighter angle. And once we sent him the photos, it was really cool, because he became an active participant in the project, and then he was invested in it. And then, all the times that we get to shoot together, we're making something together.
Right.
And that feels good. I'm assuming
on both ends.
On both ends.
Yeah, that's a sick photo. I mean,
thank you.
The fact that you think about it and you kind of like put a little touch of art on it, it just makes it will make it way more bigger than just a regular photo, because I'm sure you have 1,000 photos of those, but that came with a little different touch, and that's sick. I mean, those photos that I have from you in my house of Kelly, hitting it from behind, I mean, that thing is sick. I mean, he sent it to me one time. He's like, do not post this. And I said, I will never. And I was like, wow. And he told me, like, it's not even released yet. I was like, I felt like I had this piece of art and the world haven't seen it. So I was like, that's why I hit you up. I was, hey, can I get this picture from my house, because it was just epic.
Oh, thank you. You should. I can't wait to show you when we're done here. I'll show you some of the new stuff we shot last week.
Nice.
And it's cool. We actually shot this one where I showed it to him, and I was like, hey, is this cool to release? Like, this one's kind of a, because everyone wants to see their heroes up high, and I got a shot of him going over the falls, and it's a moment of not weakness, but it's a real moment. It's a raw moment.
It's perseverance too.
Excuse me?
It's perseverance. You fall, you get up.
Yeah. And that's what builds character. And that's what,
I mean, if you have the right mind to see it, you won't see, oh, he's falling. Because a guy like that doesn't fall. But you can see the other side of, like, to make this beautiful shot, to win these titles, there's a lot of moments like this. And most people, it's always seen at the end of the tunnel, and they see the picture paint, but they don't see in order to get there, there's going to be a lot of falls, a lot of obstacles, and that will, to me, that will just represent that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of trust. there's a lot of trust involved. Like I don't know if you have a photographer in the locker room before your fights.
This guy right here.
Thank you for pulling those photos up as well. But you guys have a trusted relationship where it's almost like he's invisible. You know he's there, but he's not.
Right,
because
exactly.
you guys have spent so much time together that you can do whatever you need to do, and you know that he's going to film it in the way that not only celebrates all the hard work that you've done, but is also going to capture the good, the bad, the ugly, the celebration, the sadness. And then it's hard. Like I've been in the room when world titles have been won, and I've been in the room when world titles are lost, and it's emotional for everybody in the room, let alone whomever is the one going for the title. And it's one thing to be able to come into the room once, but it's another thing to be able to be invited back over and over and over again. And that's where the trust and the relationship
builds up,
and the social aspect of what we do. Because if you're just looking at a technical camera, a video camera, a still camera, it's not super challenging, the technical side, but the social side is 90% of it, 95% of it is how do you carry yourself? Do you have, excuse my language, you have shit everywhere? Are you dropping stuff? Are you, you come in and you do your thing and you observe and you quietly document. One thing I love about still photography is it doesn't capture audio.
Right.
And if you could hear the audio of a lot of when we're doing portraits or we're capturing these little moments, like you're kind of just heckling and you're talking shit and you're creating a bit of energy. Not so much in a competition setting, but in any other setting, and it sets the vibe. Video, you have to be a little more cautious about what you're saying because audio is recorded and you can't have as much banter. Or if you do, you definitely have to trust the crew that.
You have to beep a lot or just cut it.
Yeah, or just cut it.
Especially, I know because sometimes I say crazy shit and I just go like, we just wink eyes and be like, okay.
Yeah.
I just know.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to also be careful who you have around, because
of course.
That's a shit you just get leaked and it's not good for business.
Mm-hmm.
And we all talk shit. Sometimes it's just a joke, but that's not necessarily how the world will see it. So you just have to be cautious and professional about it, and that's the best part about having a tight crew.
Mm-hmm. And that's it. And you see it with your crew. You've had the same team for quite a long time.
Right.
And Kelly's has his team, and you've seen it. We run a tight, a pretty tight crew, and it's fun and it's trusted. And sometimes you pick up a camera and document, and other times you're taking the trash out and you're making eggs for everyone, or you're barbecuing, and you're just living as humans.
That's the best part about it. Just having a nice crew around and having the best time.
Yeah.
And then we all win together and we all lose together. But at the end of the day, we all keep each other tight and we just push each other to the right way.
Yeah, and everyone is doing their best. That's the thing. And when you have a crew that's tight, everyone is like, you're only as good as your weakest member. But when everyone is giving their absolute best, even if something happens, they know that it wasn't intentional. No 100%. One's trying to sandbag. No one's trying to dilute the energy of the crew, because sometimes you go on trips, and for us, we'll go on a surf trip and one person will start complaining, the room has no AC, or like you go on a video shoot and they're like, I'm union, I need a break. Where's my 15-minute lunch? And you're like, the light's good. This is what we're doing. We just got to get it done. And
buy your mouthpiece and keep going.
Right. And it's character building, and it's fun. And you really have to love what you do. And I feel like those people really shine through, and that's why they excel. Like, people like yourself and the team that you have and the team that we work with, like we're not in this for the money. A good friend of ours, do you know Mark Healy? He's like a big wave surfer, and he's a spear fisherman. He's a stuntman.
I think I know his name.
Mark Healy is a phenomenal waterman. Anything in the water, he's great. And
he knows how to do it.
He knows how to do it, and he knows how to do it well, and on the highest level. And he was funny. We were talking about, this was kind of when like the paddle vests were coming out, and everyone's like, what do you think? He's like, man, He's like, you can have all the followers in the world, but he's like, when you get stuck inside at Jaws and it's 50 feet, the only thing you have is your training and you're by yourself. So you better be really comfortable with yourself.
That's true. I mean, that's facts about today's how social media works and everything. You got yourself and your loved ones, and after that, just I mean, on the lows, probably not many people's gonna be there. On the highs, everybody's gonna show up. But when you have a tight, good circle, that's all you need.
What do you listen to before a fight? Do you listen to the same music training as you do before a fight?
I actually bring the speaker to almost every locker room, and I never play music.
Really?
It's weird. Like, I train with music every day. I train with music on the morning of. When I'm in the locker room, I never turn on the speaker. It's just, I just get used. I mean, I always bring it, and I'm thinking of, and sometimes I play some music, but then I like to listen to my. I wanna talk to my thoughts and just make sure everything, because the closer you get to the fight, the more the blood starts boiling. So I'm not gonna fight with music, so I just shut it off. If someone else in the locker room have it, I don't mind it, but like sometimes I just go like, we don't need music.
Yeah. What do you always listen to the same music when you train?
I mean, yeah, same playlist. I mean, I keep adding music, but pretty much same.
Yeah.
Some reggae, some rap, some Spanish, jazz, salsa. I mean, I listen to almost everything. It's sometimes I just shuffle on my playlist, and it can go from reggae to salsa to rap in Spanish. It's just like everything.
Yeah.
Everything pops out.
That's cool. Yeah, it's funny. When I was getting into running, I was like, a lot of people listen to really fast music when they run because they want to get pumped up and they want to work.
I go no music.
No music.
I have my headphone on, just one little bud, just to see the miles. Two is 1 mile, 2 mile, but I go no music.
Really?
Like sometimes I play music, but most of the time I go just my breathing.
Interesting. And are you working on your breathing when you're running?
I try to only use my nose at the beginning, but there's a point that you just like soaking for air. But for the most part, I try to do only nose breathing to just expand that capacity. But once you get to 10 miles, you start just going. And what I try to do is just keep the pace. It doesn't matter how I feel, I just try to keep the pace.
Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah.
Running is the best thing, I think.
It's so mental. The
Everything.
physical side is like not easy, but it's easier. But the mental side, because knowing that you can just stop.
And once you go 10 miles, you go like, I gotta go back.
Yeah.
So sometimes I time it around, like I go 8 miles one way, and then I'm like, okay, I got 8 more fucking miles. So it's just, running is a good therapy about thinking. The whole time I'm running, there's a lot going on, and I start to like make sure I delete negativity and thoughts, or I cannot. I just start to like rewire everything and just start thinking good stuff. I'm gonna do well. My life is gonna get better. I'm gonna win my next fight. I'm gonna be better, and I just keep repeating everything. And sometimes the best things I write it down while I'm running, or I just send a voice note to my own phone, like to my own number, and then my listening afterwards. Like sometimes I just get a good thought process, and I just go, the more I push myself, the better I get, and I want to be a world champion, and I love this more than anything. Like right now I'm just making it up, but on the moment I have some, at least on the moment, sound really good. So
Yeah.
I have like hundreds of voice notes and texts on my phone, but I text it to myself.
Almost like mantras that come up in your mind.
And sometimes I just go and type my own name on text message, and I have like names of movies or songs or thoughts or just a nice quote. And that's like my diary. I don't really write much, but I record voice a lot of things for myself.
Interesting. Yeah, it's almost, I find it so fascinating, like where everyone finds their inspiration. I used to watch movies and imagine how I would frame a scene or where I would pause it, and that's like that to me. That's like the peak moment, almost like training. Like, okay, what is the peak moment? And if I only had one photo to take. When would I take this photo in the next 10 minutes? And I'd be like, no. And it's almost like working within limitations gives you the most amount of opportunity. And I struggle with that now sometimes. Like with digital, you can just shoot everything, and then you come back, we have 1,000 photos, and you're like, what am I missing? Like I'm not feeling anything because you were shooting so frivolously that you almost miss. You're not capturing the feeling.
Right.
And you got to feel it before you can experience. You have to experience it and feel it before you can truly capture it.
Something outcome. Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. So that's what you were saying earlier. You don't document the whole thing. You kind of like almost wait for the call. Like this is gonna be the one. And it can be underwater, sideways, take off, and I mean that's a different way to look at it. And that's why you're successful. That's why you've been having crazy photos out there.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think I just really love it. Like I was like growing up, I was very shy and very quiet, and I always wanted to be like a portrait photographer. But I was very comfortable in the water, and so in my mind, I'm like, okay, if I go swim at these waves, then maybe after the session, I can ask them to shoot. I could do a portrait.
Right.
And so, like early in my career, I'd go and I wanted to go to Mavericks. So I went to Mavericks and we didn't have a boat, so we swam off the beach, and I shot from the water all day and swam in.
Holy shit! How far is the swim?
It's far. It's pretty.
That's crazy. I'd never heard of that.
And then I was like, the next morning at the hotel, like, hey, can I shoot a portrait of you at the board? They're like, you were swimming? Yeah, that's fine. And I'm like, oh, and I eventually learned to build the courage to ask to do a portrait without having to swim from the beach.
Right.
But when you're starting out, you don't know.
You just do anything you need to get to where you are right now. I mean, you pay the price of the road of being here. I mean, that sounds crazy. You swim from the beach to the big waves, take the photos, come back, and the next day be like, hey, I was the guy swimming without a boat. Can I take a portrait of you?
Yeah.
I mean, the passion of one thing lead you to be this great photographer in the water. So, I mean, one thing just build to the next one.
But it's funny how the brain works, how you make these scenarios up in your head. And that was something that I loved about jiu-jitsu. Like when Joel first brought me in, I knew nothing about it. And I was really small. Not really small. I was small. Yeah, I'm same size now. But I didn't know anything about fighting. But wanted to learn. And I loved how you could go in to any level. The white belts are always just want to beat you up. But like, you shake hands before, you try to apply the lessons that the instructor taught you. You shake hands after, right. And then you leave there and you're almost, even though your body's physically exhausted, you're thinking about all the lessons that you learned and how the next time you go back, you want to try to reapply those over and over and over again. And, the first 6 months you just get beat up. You just get you just get beat up. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, this works.
I'm good now.
I don't know about good, but I see it and I feel, and even if when you're getting tapped, you're like, oh, you understand why they say like the greatest students are the ones that can teach. Right. And once you teach, you can kind of deconstruct the lessons that you're trying to learn.
I mean, you learn from teaching too.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to pass on a move and you were like, oh, so maybe this is the better way to do it. And you kind of like get to experience the other side. And I'm not good at teaching, but I can fight myself. But some other guys, they can fight and they can tell you something. You go like, oh, that makes sense. But if I have to, like, let's say tomorrow open a school, maybe later I figure it out because I'm a hustler. But right now, if tomorrow goes teach, I probably don't feel good about it. I don't have that spirit of like teaching people. It's almost not in me.
But it's not in you right now.
Exactly.
Because your mind is still
somewhere else.
It's somewhere else. But 10 years from now, or I don't know how long.
Right.
Later,
maybe.
Later on when you have so much real life experience to share with an up and coming fighter, up and coming jiu-jitsu practitioner, even kids.
Right.
You have so much life experience that you can't
I teach a lot of kid classes before.
Yeah.
That's fun because the kids are happy, they're enthusiastic, and they're like, and it's cool to see them battle each other. I had fun doing that, but
Yeah.
like the adult world is a different animal to teach those, because them you're taking over careers or people that want to do it for real, and them it's like there's another level of tell people what to do.
And it's emotional too, because you're not only cultivating your dreams, you're cultivating someone else's dreams, and there's a burden, there's a responsibility.
It's a big responsibility there.
And if you're trying to help this other person capture their dreams where you're still chasing your dreams, it can be a conflict of energy.
100%.
And you need to like get
Separate
everything
them
out of your system
before you go there.
And then once you go there, you'd be an incredible instructor.
Yeah, I mean that makes total sense. I mean, probably that's why I always tell that to people, like I can teach for shit, but maybe later I will figure out how to do it.
I think you can teach. You don't want to teach yet.
That's true. I mean, I think you couldn't see it better than that. That's the way to say it.
Yeah, but yeah,
It's been good.
yeah, man.
Thanks for coming by, bro.
Oh, thank you for
Appreciate
having me,
it.
man. So
It's great
good.
talking to you.
Same. It's been too long. We gotta get a surf session in.
I always say just hold at me.
I
If
know.
there's good waves, I get the drive.
It'd be fun. Back home, I have a little group. Sometimes we do these like ghetto triathlons, where we go surf instead of swim, and then we go mountain bike instead of like road bike, and then we do like soft sand runs.
Oh wow! I mean, that
And-
sounds about right.
And it's really fun because some of my buddies like have done the triathlons and they're like, these are way harder. And they're like, how come you're always coming up with the worst ideas? I'm like, because it's funny.
It is fun. I mean, let me know what you do next.
I will, man.
Definitely come by.
It'll be so fun. When's do you have another fight lined up?
I'm fighting Augustar in Abu Dhabi.
No way.
Yeah.
You got to go to the pool.
Let me know when. I'm down.
All right.
That's a great training for me.
I know. We
Yeah.
got to get the arms going. Have you seen it yet?
The new one?
Yeah.
The one in Abu Dhabi?
Yeah.
I mean, I saw photos, but I was thinking once I'm in there, I might figure out how to go there.
I haven't been. I actually missed the opening day because they kept changing the dates and I ended up in another shoot. But
It's in Abu Dhabi?
it's in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
After the fight.
Of course.
After the fight.
Maybe before to lose weight.
Hey,
Todd,
I don't.
where can people find your work?
I have a website which is it's tglaser.com, and then the project that we're most excited about. I guess I have an Instagram too, which is my name. I think it's Todd Glaser at
Yeah,
Instagram.
Todd Glaser.
Is that what it is?
I'm pretty sure it's still glazed.
I'm pretty bad at Instagram. And then we're super excited about this book that's just about to come out. It's
I
called
want to check it out.
It's called A Life of Waves, and Chito's got a shot in there, and it's just kind of a celebration of the last 15 plus years of
Good life and
of,
surfing.
surfing and travel and adventures, and man, it's
That's
cool.
dope. That's dope. Thanks for having me. I
No.
really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, man.